To How I Ally. I'm Lucinda Koza, and I'm here with an incredible guest who is going to introduce herself, if you will.
Hi, my name is Navi Hughes. I'm a board certified child, adolescent, and adult psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, therapist, and emotional intelligence coach.
Wow. And can you give a little bit of a backstory? Obviously, I did your interview in Authority magazine, but give us a little bit of a backstory, if you will, for our listeners.
So I'm an immigrant, moved to the United States when I was about 9 or 10, as far as my memory can serve. And then we moved to Oklahoma, but I've been living in Texas forever. And I'm a mental health provider. I would always say the mental health profession chose me. I didn't really choose it because of my family, I guess. I found out later on that I'm so passionate about it because all these mental health issues existed in my family, and I was deprived of what you would like for kids to have in today's world, like what my kids have. So I'm really passionate about mental health. I also do coaching, therapy and coaching. It's a hybrid model to help people move past the trauma. So it's not just talk. How can we move through it and take action? So that's where the coaching comes in. Personally, I'm a mom, a wife. We have a blended family of five. I have been a widow and I got remarried. So we have a blended family, and it's been quite an amazing experience. Some days are great, and then some days we just get through them. But at the end of it all, it works out.
Yeah. Wow. It sounds like there are a lot of chapters in your story, different lives lived.
Absolutely. When you work in this industry of content creation, and what do you want your brand to look like, and what do you want to be known for, you're supposed to pick these stories. And I'm like, I have too many. There's just too many chapters. And it's not that I want to cater to everybody, and it's not like this thing that I just need to have to be everything, to be all, but I have gone through it all. So it is really tough. Like, to, hey, I want to be this person or I want to be that person. I've been a teen mom, I've been an immigrant, a mental health provider, a widow, a blended family, bonus mom. So there's just a lot of things, right? So it's difficult to pick that chapter and be like, this is the most amazing chapter that made the difference. And that is the hardest thing for me. I don't know when the turning point was because I've closed so many chapters and reinvented myself with each chapter. There's like micro turning points in each journey.
I recognize that so much. I feel like the exact same way. Like I told you, I went to SMU, that, like I lived in Dallas for 5 years. Did that actually happen? Who was that? Was that me? Like, what? It's weird.
A lot of that is our brain protects ourselves, puts things into different chapters. So maybe people that go to college are struggling in a different type of environment than adults and children, and but they all have in common some. If there's a deep experience or a painful one, we try to, like, your brain just tries to pack it up, package it up in a nice little box and put it away. And then when you're looking back at it, every time that story comes up or your brain re-edits it, or it's depending on what mood you're in for the day, or it gets lost in there and packaged. And it's so hard to be objective when you've been through so much.
Yeah. I was just thinking the other day about emotional clutter. I feel like that resonates with you.
Absolutely. And that is why I found a tool. I made a tool. My patients needed the tool. In fact, it was one of my patients. He said, why don't you're so great at doing this concept, why don't you just teach emotional intelligence? And this is a tech guy telling me to put like something together so my patients could have a tool outside of therapy or being on one-on-one with me. So I created a program, and it's, I guess you could think of a blueprint or new language to approach emotional intelligence. We have all these tools, but really we're reaching everywhere we're not supposed to be. Like, we need to look within us. The answers lie there. I want people to need less therapy. I want people to need less coaching. I want people to need less meds. So, how do you do that? You focus in regulating yourself. You pick up on your emotions, your sensory experiences. You tune into your body, and you make decisions that are grounded towards like you, what you need, and not what anyone else is telling you. That essentially is building that level of emotional intelligence. People that have great emotional intelligence are harder to manipulate. They just know their truth.
And I bet they're great parents. I just that just occurs to me. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I would think of that they lead by example, because to be an emotionally intelligent person, you have to tune into your emotions. You have to be able to pause. We all experience anger, but are you able to recognize the anger? Are you able to pause in that moment? Are you able to regulate your emotions so you don't transfer that energy into your child, right? So it's stopping yourself without judgment and getting feedback from your child. So, meaning you might have to experience somewhat of an ego death and make it not all about you, right? People from our generation have a hard time doing that because everything is about the ego, or you should respect me, or you should do this, and what about me? And she's mini me, and he's mini me. It's really not about me. It's about that child feeling empowered. And that's what people with high level emotional intelligence know. Like, you want your child to be empowered and need you less. The problem is people want to be needed, so it's me. That's how it's like. Some parents try to control the narrative, whether intentionally or not. They do it.
Oh my god, you just blew my mind completely. The mini me. I have twins, a girl and a boy. Like, I recognize too much truth in that in what you said. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and I used to practice the same way because that's what my parents taught me, be more like me, even though, you have these sayings, the apple doesn't fall from the tree and all that stuff. I get it. You are part of your environment, but you don't need to practice what your parents practice. You don't need to believe what your parents believe. You're supposed to grow beyond that as your environment changes. Why would I possess the same beliefs in 2025 and from the 1980s when we're not going through the same struggles? Like, it doesn't make sense. You have to go beyond those beliefs. And beliefs are not values, right? We all have a moral compass. Beliefs are just everyday things like, can I do this? Am I good at that? Just little things. Those are little beliefs. They can either break you or make you. Like, most people experience limited beliefs, and they feed themselves that story because we're wired to. It's easier for our brain to protect us like that because we're scared of change. But you have to go beyond those beliefs to reach a level of self actualization, which, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that's really where we're all trying to get to, from the basic to the top.
This is like going to church. This is oh, that everyone needs to know this and we're not taught. Maybe the younger generations are doing better, or we're trying to do better for them, but I was not taught any of this. I feel like emotional intelligence should be taught in like kindergarten.
Yeah, absolutely. This is why I created this emotional literacy program. So you think about IQ, you have like science, math, reading. You think about emotional intelligence, most people can't tell you what makes it up, right? I didn't know it. I had to study it and get all these pieces together, define it, and find out like how can it help my people in psychiatry that don't know what they're feeling. We're just, here's your medication. Oh, I felt angry yesterday. Here's your medication, but you don't know why you felt angry. Maybe you could have paused. Maybe you could have done all these skills. You don't know why you feel, when you feel it, how to feel it. So you just keep going and going. And then when you become dysfunctional, or your environment's a stressor, or some genetics get unlocked, you start developing these disorders like have major episodes, or if you have bipolar disorder, you're more likely to have flare ups if you cannot regulate that stress. So, we don't really have a preventative way of psychiatry. This was my bridge just to educate you so you can have less flare ups, you can prevent certain things, and just have a good quality of life just by tuning into your mind and body and learning how the two work together.
Wow. Wow. So, right. There isn't a preventative technique that is taught in traditional therapy or psychiatry. So that's like revolutionary. I don't think I've even thought about it that way.
I'm excited to share it because the moment I've been putting it all together, and it was really, how do I reduce, like, my goal is not keeping people in therapy or always if they don't want meds. My goal is to give them the best quality of life no matter what it takes. That's the goal. Can you smile when you're hanging out with your family? Can you go home with a smile after work? Can you embrace that kiss or that moment with your child without pushing them off? Can you be present? That's the goal, right? So how do I do that when also giving you the space to need me less and regulate you more, like yourself more? When we get so overwhelmed, we quickly jump on our phone. Hey, so and so, that the drive through pissed me off. So and so said something in the boardroom that I didn't like. My husband didn't feed the kids the right food. I'm pissed. So you're constantly in this battle of texting everyone all day, like just venting here and there. And it doesn't mean you can't vent, it just means that need to constantly vent because you can't regulate your nervous system. That was happening also in my life with my kid who has autism, but also with my patients. So I'm like, there's got to be a way how I can help you outside of therapy and real tools, real definitions, so you understand what self awareness is, you understand what motivation and resilience is, you understand what situational awareness is, so you can solve your problems. That is my goal for most patients that I have. Excuse me, that I have. It is to empower you. And in the same way, we should empower our children. You don't want reliant, codependent humans. You want interdependent humans that help each other out, but can still survive and thrive on their own.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Like our children, especially a child who has autism, there's a lot of thought that goes into I'm not going to be around someday and you need to thrive and have the best life possible without me.
Yeah. Those words are really hard to say. You know it's reality. It and then either you can approach it strategically with emotional intelligence and just increasing your emotional literacy, or you can be hyper reactive and make or create a hyper independent child, which is surviving through trauma, right? So you have to make the call of, are we going to handle this strategically? I know because I've been on both sides. Each child got a different mother. My oldest one jokes around with me, why aren't you like that? I'm like, you don't want me to be the same mom I was 18 years ago. I need to change as a human. That's what really sets us apart, is you leveling up. If I'm the same person I was 20 years ago, there's a problem. So I had to create, with my first one, I could tell my first child, she has this sense of being hyper independent. And I know what I did. I know it's also great for her, but not great when she needs to verbalize certain emotions or get her feelings out. The eldest child syndrome, I'll fake it till I make it, I'm fine. Where I have my baby, we are learning certain things, and this kid is writing me letters to, hey, you're going to jail today, or I don't love you, or here, I'm mad at you, I'm writing you this angry note. So, how do you work with that child that has autism? You just have to let your ego die when you get feedback like that. And I know he doesn't mean it, but it's allowing him to express those feelings. A lot of parents don't understand because they want the control over the child's development. But if you allow them to be, they develop the way they need to, right? By
Mm.
guiding them, working with them, regulating, and not always being a rush to shut them down or fix their behavior, because they're really not broken. They're not broken. They just need to be able to understand themselves and heal on their own.
It seems it's like hard enough with any child, right? Like you said, and then it's just a whole new set of, I was gonna say rules, but there are no rules. There's no, although you have created a guidebook, it feels like there's no guidebook.
Yes, and that is the exact language I have used on my website, is this is the blueprint that no one gave you. This is the roadmap, like the language around emotional intelligence. Because when you're reaching for all these things and maybe you're playing mental gymnastics, hey, I got to write for an hour to get all these thoughts out. I have to go to the gym to get these thoughts out. And I have to cold plunge or I have to meditate. And it just, how much time is that taking up out of your day? If you want to be productive, you want to write, you want to do your podcast, if you're spending all this time just to muster up the energy to declutter your brain, hours and hours, you got all these tools people are telling you to use, but you've missed the biggest tool, which is you, your mind and body, and being able to connect that, knowing what you feel and moving through it and still getting your work done, and not sitting through hours of therapy in my office or with a therapist. I've had patients say to me, I've been in therapy 10 years and I have not had this frame this way, or I would have taken action. And
Mm.
that they live with shame, regret, guilt is really, I haven't done anything miraculous that doesn't exist. It's just, I would say, it's just a bunch of research and lived experience and from my patients, like what they need. So it's not like this brand new thing that, is so innovative. It is just trying to put everybody's pieces together of what they need, giving it a definition. People get confused when we can't define things. That's why we have to individually define things too, right? What does joy mean to you might not be what does joy mean to me. And I'm always questioning that for my clients. What does this mean to you? Because if you tell me, like, I'm successful, what does success mean to you? And that's how, I usually get people to tell me, what does it mean? So I gave a definition for each one and then gave a strategy and a tool to implement each one. And then you can define how this looks like in your life. All I can do is give you examples, but everyone looks different. And in a sense, also on the opposite side, we're all human, so we go through similar struggles. We all experience these basic emotions that we turn into big feelings, and some of us let it control our day. And I'm not saying I don't, I'm not saying we don't ever. It's just your ability to recover and bounce back from that emotional overwhelm.
Yeah. The I I grew up in South Carolina, and in the South, you do not talk about any of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just I get you probably can feel that in Fort Worth or anywhere.
Yeah. So we had hope. The mental health community was making some headway. Our research for psychiatry is, when you compare it to other fields, it's so behind. And we're doing a disservice to others by not keeping up with the times, having more research. But that means more funding. That means more people willing to care enough for those efforts. And my goal has always been to destigmatize mental health. But after that goal, I'm like, no, we don't want to just destigmatize it. We want to make it mainstream. We want it to be, the word mental health check-ins, just like you get your physical. You should get a mental health check-in. Are you okay? Because your EQ, your emotional intelligence, drives most of your decisions. It is actually used in marketing, content creation, journalism. Emotional intelligence is used everywhere, in sales, in your business, building relationships with your spouse, your family. It is everywhere. It's just how we define it so you can utilize it. And going back is, yes, we do lack it. This is why I created the gap. I was making headway. I felt like we were, as a community. And now with recent funding and all this cutbacks, it's just, with all the research cutbacks, it's been very, I don't know. Some days I try to not get so hopeless about it. And those are the days I have to put my pants on and do this whole self-talk of, you've made it so far. We still have to keep going. If you don't keep going, what does the alternative look like? You still have to push this mental health agenda. If not, we're going to be sitting in the 1800s again. And we're living like we're in the 1980s right now. But it is 2025. And if you look at other countries, they're living like they're in the 2050s. I'm like, what are we doing? We're going back,
Yeah.
especially now towards autism. Autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder. And I have clients and I have therapists. I'll start with the clients that feel unseen, unheard, because now they were being validated. They had some criteria, some patterns that they could learn about their brain. It was nice to fit in and to know something about yourself. But now we have therapists. I had a client the other day, their therapist told them, hey, I don't think it's a good idea for you to have the diagnosis autism. And I'm like, what are we doing? Are we just not going to diagnose with that anymore? Because of everything that's going on, the climate. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is such a disservice. Do you know how much courage it takes for someone to come ask for help? And now you're saying, you know what? Let's just not call it autism. I'm supposed to be empowering you as a mental health professional of, this is you, accept it. But if you have to hide that part of you, then am I setting the right example?
Oh my god. Wow.
And that is the dilemma we're seeing. And I've seen it. People now are scared to go get neuropsych evals. They're scared. One, it's mental health professionals that are also scared, that are pushing this agenda. And like I said, I'm in the South, and now it's, oh, when you, back in the day, if something happened to you, you were assaulted, you don't talk about it because people might think this way, right? Your voice is silenced because we don't want that kind of name on the family. So now the same thing is happening with autism, and it is really sad. We don't want you to be labeled autistic because now you're asking someone to hide a part of them and forcing them to act a certain way because you naturally are going to reinforce what society wants because you've already taken that type of validation away from your child.
Oh my god, this is really upsetting.
Yeah. When I found that out, I had to like not let it affect my patients, but I had to empower her and let her know that I don't necessarily agree, but there's a fear, right? Especially with children. You put the fear, you tell them something, and you activate that fight or flight, especially if you have autism, right? You are so sensitive to your environment. People think that kids with autism don't feel anything. In fact, they are the most empathic people. They feel everything. They're a good judge of character. They take all these senses and they're watching you, they're watching your nonverbals, and their energy, their nervous system is just filling up with that. So if you create fear, they're going to feel more of that. If you create safety, they will accept the safety, calm their nervous system down. So you're literally hindering treatment by putting in fear as part of the treatment plan. It's just
God.
sad.
But y like you said, like, you have to keep going. Like, you have to keep, affecting the people that are your patients, or you just have to, because if you don't, then there's no hope, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've had feedback from even family. It's like, why put your child's business out there, or why put your business out there? And it's not because I want to. It's not because I'm just this great, vulnerable person. It takes a lot of courage. But I feel like there's a calling. Like I just cannot stop. And I do try. Just like I do try, because some days you're working against the grain with all the news and everything going on. You're just, especially in my field, right? Most people try to protect their brands, their assets, their money, or they don't want to be involved in this. What makes it hard for me is I am in the mental health space. So if I don't talk about it, who else is going to talk about it? Everyone's like really scared of how is it going to affect my bottom line? How is it going to affect my networking? How is it going to affect my launch if I talk about these things? But I feel like I have to live in my truth. It's the sample that I'm setting for my clients. So I guess in that way, I'm not against anyone, but I am for mental health. I am for those values that we need, the being heard, being seen, raising emotionally mature humans. We are still facing a crisis of adults or kids. We're facing a crisis of kids in adult bodies that haven't been seen, haven't been heard, haven't been validated. And it's just like spreading like wildfire of who gets the most attention, me, and forget everyone else. And it is an epidemic on its own. And like we see you, we hear you. People that are emotionally intelligent really cannot be fooled by that. The divide and conquer method, the fear method doesn't work because we can feel our emotions. We understand them. We understand the manipulative tactics. Because part of having some form of emotional intelligence, and I'm not saying you have really high EQ for doing this, is dark psychology, is fear-based motivation, which you have seen it over, I don't know, the last 3,000 years. If I put a fear in you, you're likely to respond, right? It's going to cloud your judgment. You're going to you're going to go right into survival mode. And that's what people want. They want you in survival mode. So you can't think, you can't get creative, you can't have these solutions. So you don't create that community, that new community that you might need. You might just hold on to the old community that was familiar, or you might be scared of losing that community. But sometimes you have to lose those certain beliefs so you can stay in touch with those values. So you're not living in two different places. A lot of people here, they're very fearful. So they're doing one thing and saying another behind the scenes. I know because they're in my office. So they're like two different personalities with no personality disorder, not bipolar, but it's just they have to be a certain way here and a certain way at work or with their family. And it's just sad because you lose who you are and you burn out so much faster when you have to live a life that you're just pretending.
And that's where you see like suicide.
Yes, so they don't want to classify certain things or label or misspeak, because I sometimes misspeak. So let me back up. When emotions are suppressed, kids' opinions are suppressed, or you just feel so lonely, your suicide rates are going to be higher. Literally, people are suffering in silence because you've asked them to. You don't want to acknowledge their depression. You don't want to acknowledge their beliefs or their values because you're, I don't know, scared to losing what was, I don't know, I guess great back then. But it's, again, it's just an emotion attached to that old story. People were suffering back then. So why would we want to model our future behaviors from the back when mentality? It's just there for the America they want, not for the entire America. It's for the people that they want. And we're doing something, right? Doing something, whatever that something is, it is, again, just to divide, conquer. We've been using this method for such a long time. Divide and conquer by instilling fear. And people fall for it right at the time. And that's why I encourage people to find their community so they're not defeated into that fear, which is why I told you I am moving. And I do have patients that are not like that, but they're surrounded by people like that. So they really can't thrive because we're so busy being bogged down, right? From fighting the things rather than making a huge difference because you're just spending your time in battle. And sometimes I feel like that too, like with my mental health mantra. It's just a quirk. It's not real. Everybody gets depressed and you just need to have more gratitude. So it's like, how do you fight these everyday scenarios? And there's this link that's missing. I'm like, okay, this is not growth. This is just me fighting with you on a day-to-day basis. And then there are people that want to move towards that. And I love them for that because I have helped so many. Even if you could just give me some openness, just a little bit of a peek, a glimmer, so where you could let the light in. I will take that.
Yeah.
But when you're surrounded by everything that's telling you this is not real, none of this is real, it's disheartening. And the funny thing is, you can see it through science, you can see it through brain scans, you can see it respond to treatments. Hey, I give you this medication, and all of a sudden you're a productive human being. You didn't lack willpower, you just needed help. Now I have clients telling, man, I feel like such a better person. Why did I wait so long to get help? I know exactly why you waited 20 years, because your family guilted you and shamed you for it. So it's like you're losing time and energy being in a bubble where you're not accepted. It's
That
like when you're
is
Like, I'm from the slums of India, and if you stay in that slum and you stay in that gutter, you can't expand, you can't grow. You're going to stay stuck there. But if you get out of it, maybe you come back and save more people, but you have to save yourself first.
That's right. You have to put on the oxygen mask
Yeah.
before you assist others.
Yeah, and I hope to make those kind of revolutionary changes, to get more empowerment, more people on board so we can move in the right direction. Um, Empowerment, like, people toss this word around all the time, but empowerment is really getting you so confident you can make your own decisions, who you are, you know, what you want to be. If not, you will figure it out and you will let go of what no longer serves you. That is empowerment.
That's a good definition.
I just wish people knew more. And that's why I'm so into defining things, because I was the kid you just said these words to. I'm like, what does that really mean? I studied coming from India to here. I dealt with, I don't know what she's saying. Is she being mean? Is she teasing me? Why is she so sarcastic? I just don't understand. And when there wasn't a definition for something, I just struggled, because to me, certain things mean different, like very different things from what they might mean to someone else, which is why when I write content or blog, I ask my husband, does this is this the same meaning like to you what it means to me, like that first pass test? Because to me it means everything. It means what I want it to mean, but to the other person it does not. So it's the reason I started defining things.
And that's actually that is a value of mine that I think about a lot, is not making assumptions about your audience or who you're talking to, like assuming that they know what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
they've never heard this one word before.
Yeah, and I constantly check in and ask questions. Like, does this resonate with you? Or have them explain, because a confused mind can't make good decisions. And we're just lost in conversation rather than saying, like our parents used to tell us, oh, you should know. Oh, you should know this. Or you should know that. There aren't any shouldn'ts. You weren't born out of the womb knowing everything. You learn it.
And we should feel, even at our age, whatever our age is, we should feel unafraid to say that we don't know something.
So I was a bedside nurse, and your physicians, residents, everybody's rounding at 7 a.m. in the morning. They just expect you to know these patients. Just expect you to know. You just got to work like 20 minutes ago and the call lights are going off. And then there was a sense of you're stupid if you don't know your patient. Haven't even seen them. And then one of the nurse practitioners, she rounded with one of these, the head cardiologist that day. And he asked her this question. And she just said, I don't know. And to me, that was so empowering. I'm like, she could just say that. That was her truth. So why couldn't I say it? I don't know. And that was the first time in the medical world I've seen someone just accept it, because he didn't give her hope and she was just honest. And
Mm.
that was a moment for me. I took it. I'm like, you just say you don't know. Like that, it's okay not to know. Go check. It's just this fear of being wrong all the time. Well, you're more wrong if you don't go check go check the details
Right.
up.
Then you're definitely wrong.
Yeah, yeah, because in the medical world, lies can hurt a patient.
I started to do that as a parent, like with my husband. I used to feel like I always had to have the answer to something like, do they have clean socks? Or
Yeah.
but if I don't know, I'm not gonna take on that burden of making up some kind of information or some kind of reason why I don't have the information. I'm just going to say straight up, I don't know.
Yeah.
And there's no like story attached to that. Like it's
Yeah.
just a fact. I don't know.
Yes. And if it's something you really truly care about, you can say, I don't know, but I'll find out and get back to you.
There you go. Yeah.
There's this, you'd mentioned like this bias earlier of not wanting to have a bias or put people in a category, just being more curious. It's interesting because I, over the years, have looked at why don't I go, like, why am I not prepared? Why am I not a perfectionist? Cindy over there, she knew everything on the itinerary, everyone. She checked their background. She knows where they work. She read their resume and she showed up ready. And I was never that kind of person. And I did this personality test. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's Briggs MBTI. So I had ENFP, whatever. I was intuitive. So I'm linking back. I'm like, why am I never prepared for any of this? Like conference after conference or just meetings. And I realized I just like to meet humans where they're at. I don't need to know your resume. I don't need to know you have 1 million followers. I don't need to know what can I get from you. I don't need to know how you can help me. I just need to know the human side of you. And I feel like a lot of us have this agenda to meet, agenda to execute. I've seen it time and time again. And when you go into this influencer world or content creation or just networking in general, everyone has an agenda. And I just thought that approach was not authentic to me. And that's maybe why I don't want to prepare. I don't want to go look at your bio. I just want to know you. And I have looked silly because people have called me silly. Oh, you don't know so and so? No, I'm just meeting them where they're at. Like the other day, we were at a conference and we were at a conference in Florida. I had no idea the person in front of me that was buying me dinner was going to be on the Mel Robbins podcast. I had no idea. I just got to sit with her and listen to her story and just connect. Like I had no idea. And I'm okay with that.
And then you gave her the opportunity, you gave that person the opportunity to have an authentic conversation. And that's such a gift because normally that person is probably just dealing with people who have agendas.
Yes. And with emotional intelligence, some people teach tactics of getting to know them, like where do they need help, what are their problems, what are you going to help them with. And it's just, it's very superficial. And now we put like a strategy to manipulate towards our agenda rather than a strategy to connect. And I see it everywhere. And when you have an education and you've done all the research and you're just dumbfounded of how many people you think, they're serving others and it's really just me.
Oh my God. I think I'm realizing in this moment that is my parenting style. And I feel like a lot of parents maybe have agendas like all the time in all of their interactions with their children. And I cannot live like that. That's like weird. That's like manipulative.
Yeah, and we do it without even knowing. Right? We'll enroll our kids in cheer camp or whatever because we want to make connections. Go be on the golf club so we can make connections. Hey, mommy needs a wine night. You need to go get friends. Hey, let's go to church so I can have friends or I can have a social circle. or whatever the agenda is, or I want you to be this way, rather than asking your child, where do you feel comfortable?
Yeah, totally. Like, I didn't feel the need to have a birthday party. My twins just turned 2, and, like, they're just 2. They don't go to school yet, like, they don't have friends. Like, what who are we throwing a party for? If
Yeah,
we did, it would be for the adults.
I used to do that a lot. Is with my third child, we didn't have a community. It was around COVID. Didn't really have He didn't have a lot of friends. It's already hard for him to make friends.
Mm.
And I threw him this really awesome party, had every details, and I don't know if but these I already forgot the name, but they were these nursery rhyme shows, and the theme was all about that. And I had I had a balloon person, I had a face painter, and I a magician, and I had this whole machine to make, what do you call those?
Bubbles?
No, it's the other cotton candy machines. I always lose my words. In this whole production, if you saw this, it was Pinteresty. It was how those Pinterest mom and it. I think it got worse during the pandemic, and consumerism went up, and everything was on social media. And she's throwing the perfect party. Oh, look at the colors she used. And she had a bounce house. Oh my gosh, look at that backdrop with the balloons.
Oh,
He didn't really have any friends. If you saw this party, it would be like someone said this looked like it just came out of Pinterest. And it was absurd looking back. He doesn't remember any of it. He didn't even have fun. It was overstimulating. So it's always our agenda, this need for external validation that was never met at a young age. So now you're projecting it onto your kids. And it's, oh, look at me. Or look, it's always, oh, my child did this. My child got these grades. And it's really, that's what hurts me the most with my parents is when you call me, all we do is talk about my finances or how my business is doing. And it's always been like that. So I've been a little bit rebellious in the past. I'm not going to let you use me so you can feel proud of
oh,
my successes. And it's like when you only turn to me and praise the grades, praise the looks if you like them at the time, and praise the financial aspect, then that's all we can connect on. It
oh
is
my god.
and that might have been a thing in the 1900s when you're starving and you need to make this transition as an immigrant, but it is our responsibility to not be so complacent as this is all we care about. And maybe you go to church, maybe my mom meditates all the time, maybe you go do all these spiritual things, but are you actually practicing them in real life with your kids and your friends and your husband and at work?
Preach.
And we're not,
Wow.
but we have to make progress. You have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror.
Right.
And what is my intention? Am I being manipulative? We all manipulate to some extent because we are just humans. It's just the way our brains are wired. Hey, I want this to happen, so I'll do this. But what is the intention behind it? Is the intention so I can feel good? Is it a me thing? My kid got straight A's, so that makes me so proud. Or did it actually make the kid proud? Whatever it was. So people manipulate using fear-based tactics, and it's just sometimes that's why your kids never feel proud of themselves.
I could go on forever talking to you. In fact, we might I mean, we should do another episode because this is really important stuff, like, really important, and like you said, like, it's really important in this moment in time. My computer is on low battery, and I'm so scared to lose this recording.
No, you do what you have to do. It's completely okay.
Oh my god, it has been wonderful, and, like, truth bombs everywhere talking with you. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
being here,
Yeah, thank you for having me.
and maybe we'll do a part 2.
Yeah, definitely. You can reach out to me. You have my contact information.
Oh, yeah.